All right, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. If you didn't hear me over music, I hope that you're having a beautiful day. Beautiful day. You had an excellent 6 days since last time we did the shout out show. I want to give some thanks and kudos to some people who reached out to me in regards to last week's show, wanting the inventing. Uh, really, I won't even get into the title, but it was an interesting talk um, about criminalization, sexual criminalization of people in this regard, Hamas, but people who kind of looked at what it was in the United States and being able to frame it out and being able basically to connect the dots on a lot of things that we're seeing now, and it's not new. It's just regurgitated, and it's almost regurgitated to the point that do we have the tolerance for it? How long will we tolerate something? Because when we're up in arms and we absolutely lose our minds and say we're not going to go for it, and we become very, very adamant about these things, people fall back, and then it's almost like a strain of a flu. This year wasn't bad; it skips a year, but when it comes back that year, it's new and improved. And a lot of the things that we're seeing in terms of political debate, things like that, about what's new and improved in the concept of being disruptive. So I thought today would be interesting to flip it and say, how can we be creatively disruptive? How can we look at things that empower us, things that in many regards help us build up our foundation is what we're doing, laying groundwork, for lack of a better word, to being able to do different things. Sometimes when I work with clients, a person may start at one position, and when you look at what their superpowers are, as we're going to talk about today, you realize that their strength lies over here. Great story. My good friend, my big brother, may Allah be pleased with, Reginald Kitchen, years ago. We're talking 1992, definitely 1992. Here I was, this young comedian up in Milwaukee. I thought I was tearing it up. They had a club called I can't remember the club or Le Club, whatever it was. It was a comedy club downtown Milwaukee. We did a show there, and I got my videotape, which is a big thing back then, videotapes. And I got my videotape, and I was really, really happy. And while I was home in DC, I wanted Reggie to see this tape, and he agreed to see it. I drove all the way out to Virginia, Herndon, and we prayed Fajr together. And he watched my tape, and I was really, really, I want to say confident, but I felt really, really good about my performance. Had a good show, and I thought that the conversation was going to be about, hey, you really gotten good because you never see me as a comic, you never see me perform. And it was interesting that when he watched the tape, he analyzed what my superpowers were because I couldn't see it. Sometimes we're so close to something, we know what it is we want, but we're not really aware of what we actually have in terms of our talents, our gifts, etc. And what was really, really funny was my big brother actually watched my whole tape, and the first words out of his mouth were, "Your strength is in writing." Listen to what I'm saying. He said, "Your strength is in writing." And of course, I was kind of crushed. It's a stake to the heart. I thought it was a great performer. He was like, performing will come along. He said, but your foundation is in writing. He said, if you can improve your writing, the other parts become easy because you're performing much improved concepts, much improved comedy. And he was 100% right. I mean, I believe that was one of the catalysts for me being able to get into television writing when I got out of Hollywood. But again, sometimes you need other people to look at your superpower. And I didn't understand that. Now, this whole thing about what's your superpower is very cliquish these days. It's very cliche. What's your superpower? But I want us to kind of take a look at it and break it down just a little bit, because the thing is, they're very resolute about your superpowers, and it stays away from faith, stays away from spirituality, which I really think is interesting. So that's number one. Number two, I want to address something that came up. It's out on the internet on IG. An associate of mine, Imam Omar Suleiman, put out a challenge to performers, artists, and things like that about using your platform And I greatly respect this brother, what he's done with Yakeen Institute. But I was kind of taken a little back because sometimes when you ask somebody to come to these protests, I'm 56 years old, going on 57 in a week. Let's be honest, brothers and sisters. I was talking about Palestine and apartheid back in 1983, 82. Okay, so I look at what's out there, and honestly, it's like if it's not something that is going to be foundationally groundbreaking, disruptive, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. I don't go to protests where people are taking selfies. Your business is that you are trying to emphasize a point, and sometimes I do have to tell folks I will use my platform as I see fit because I have to look at the value of what I'm doing with my platform. Okay. So what we're gonna do here momentarily is we're gonna just take a quick break. You know how we do. Come back. We're gonna start the show. We have Sister Satana back here today. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sister Satana, we shout you out when you're not here. We don't talk bad about it. We shout you out. And I give all kudos when I'm supposed to. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back talking about identifying your superpower here on the Shout Out Show. I'm Preacher Mars. Don't you move. All right, we're back. Getting ready to talk about identifying your superpowers. But before we can do that, we have to identify our shout out show soldiers, our shout out show superstars, if you will. We're talking about superpowers, consistency, timeliness, things like that. We have all of that in our comment section. We're gonna kick it off. In the comment section, we have Sister Ree. How you doing, Sister Ree? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace and blessings to your family, your husband, your son. Thank you so much for supporting the Shout Out Show and supporting me personally. I appreciate that. I hope that you're having an amazing day. Thank you for tuning in. Next up, we got Brother Altaf Rashid, our Canadian envoy to the show. He used to be the ambassador, but now he's the envoy, but he's still Mr. 6 o'clock. Straight up, straight down, tuning in. We appreciate you, my brother. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope everything is going well up there in Canada. I think it's getting cold now. It's finally getting cold, but it's nice and warm here on the Shout Out Show. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. And, of course, next up, we got a shout out at executive producer here on the Shout Out Show, Sister Satana Whitfield. Thank you so much for joining us, Sister Satana. And as always, your presence is invited and welcome and appreciated here on the show. So thank you so much. I know we have some people that come in late because they're getting off work and things like that. And this is really, really interesting because I'm going to talk, Sister Tana and I are going to talk about this after the show. So this whole idea of identifying your superpowers, it's like a quiz. What I'm going to do is try to give a little breakdown in between the quiz. I think it's like 4 sections or something like that. But I'm going to try and give a little breakdown in between. And I hope that this works out. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section because this is meant to be interactive. I don't want to be the teacher that just lectures and nobody has a question, nobody has any input. If you agree with something, great. If you don't agree with something, great. If you have a question or something you want to add to what we're doing, please, feel free to do that. We welcome it here on the Shout Out Show. So you can see right here we have posted, have you ever wondered if you have any hidden power? This is something that developed in the workplace efficiency. And it moved away from workplace efficiency because when you get into grading and scoring and things like that, that can be a real pickle herring in terms of human resources and things like that. They used to do personality tests and stuff like that. And the reason they kind of stopped it because in some regards, you can cheat the game if you want, or you may not get, I want to say, organic results. And sometimes when you don't get organic results and you put the results out or you put them in an assessment, it can be problematic to your staff, your supervisors and things like that. But I thought this would be interesting just to throw this up. So I'm just going to throw this out here real quickly. Satana, you want to bring that up? We'll go full on it.
Have you ever wondered if you have any hidden power? You might find it hard to believe, yet it's stated that everyone possesses some untapped power. We'll help you find yours. Take this short quiz with 8 questions. Count up the points you'll get from each answer. The results might simply surprise you at the end of the video. Let's begin.
Get a piece of paper and a pen because you're going to score yourself. I'll give it a couple minutes. Get yourself a piece of paper and a pen because you're going to score yourself. And they have the breakdowns in terms of what your superpowers are. So I meant to say that at the beginning. Please forgive me. Make sure you get a pen and a piece of paper so you can score yourself. All right? So I'm thinking at this point in time I've stalled enough. And we're about ready to begin, inshallah. So let me shut up and Satana, go ahead and roll.
Number one, what's your favorite form of art? Painting, music, sculpture, dance. Here are the points. Make sure to keep track of them. Number 2, which of the following qualities resonates with you the most? Intuition and empathy, wisdom and knowledge, swiftness and decisiveness, attention to subtleties and precision. Number 3, when facing big life choices, what helps you decide? Thinking carefully and looking at facts, paying attention to small details and clues around you, listening to your inner feelings and instincts, making decisions quickly. Number 4, choose one animal that you associate yourself with. The wise owl, the swift cheetah, the empathetic dolphin, the attentive fox. Number 5, how do you typically feel during a social event or gathering? Energized, compassionate, purposeful, observant. Number 6, which activity would you choose to do every day? Helping the needy, spend more time studying, organizing my room, walk more in the park. Number 7, where would you choose to spend your weekend? A library or museum, a bustling city, a peaceful beach, a scenic hiking trail. Number 8, which sense do you rely on the most? Sight, hearing, intuition, touch. Well done! You've answered all questions. Can you please hit that subscribe button while we load the final results? Point 8 to 13. Unleash your hidden power through the magic of your senses. Just like a magician unveiling their secret tricks, you have the potential to tap into your innate strengths and intuition by embracing the world around you. Your heightened senses can guide you through life's challenges, helping you see opportunities where others might miss them. Point 14 to 19. It's your intelligence that sets you apart. Your keen intellect is a source of endless potential, capable of solving puzzles and achieving greatness in every aspect of life. Like a torch in the darkness, your intelligence illuminates the path to success, guiding you towards informed decisions and innovative solutions. Point 20 to 25. Your hidden power is speed, never late and always on time. Your ability to consistently be on time, never missing a beat, sets you apart in a world where time management is key. It's a superpower that fosters trust, reliability, and efficiency, both personally and professionally. Point 26 to 32. Your hidden power lies in your extraordinary psychic intuition. Like a compass for the soul, your psychic intuition allows you to navigate the depths of human understanding and tap into insights beyond the ordinary. Your psychic power is a beacon of enlightenment, ready to illuminate your path and enrich your journey. So, did you find out what your hidden power is? Share your results in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to press the subscribe button for more cool tests.
Okay, so I was in that 20 range. It was pretty funny. I did the test, and my superpower was speed, being on time. And it was funny because it didn't really tie into creativity, which is really the basis of what I do. It didn't really quite tie into creativity. It tied into time management, which I believe oddly does have a lot to do with time to be able to create. Being able to set together, I talk about deliberate practice, things like that. These are quotients of time, what we do, managing our ability to work on certain skills, things like that. We've talked about this particular show is deliberate practice. So it was funny. I was like, wow, that has a lot to do with what I'm talking about. I think the thing also, as I began to look at it just a little bit more, was the fact that I could really, really appreciate two things. Number one, that if you have a low score, it doesn't mean that you have low ability. If you have a high score, it doesn't mean that you're off the charts. It literally does this whole thing, just I want to say it's compartmentalizing these particular skills. And the funny part is, if you look at it across a really broad spectrum, we all pull from these different things, even though we say the score is 8 to whatever, we all pull from those scores. So I thought it would be interesting, if at all possible, to look at some aspect of why this is important. So let me jump on it. It's two things that are important about these type of tests. And I want to be very, very clear and specific about these tests, is that number one, there's always been a space in business and industry and in corporations to pigeonhole people, to be able to categorize people at a certain grade length. I mean, I've been in education for years. There's a reason why when you teach a grade, there's a particular curriculum for a grade. They give you the talk that this is grade appropriate or age appropriate, but you have kids, we found that in education, you had kids that were amazingly bright, but we had to keep them at a certain grade level because we have to adhere to the concept of the herd, meaning that you have to make sure that the herd is together and they cross the finish line at the same time. My push for anybody who's trying to figure out what your superpower is number one, write down what your superpowers aren't. Write down the things that you want to do but you can't do. Listen to me. Write down the things that you really want to do that you may have a skill set for, but it's not a developed skill set. Maybe write down 2 of those. And what I want you to do is begin the process of doing an investigation. Do your research on things that are going to get you from point A to point A1 to point A2 to point B in the context of your superpower. The only thing about this test that I do worry about is it doesn't tell you how to develop your superpower. It tells you you have it, doesn't tell you how you develop it. And over time, a lot of times this is what happened to us. We're told we have this, but we don't develop it. I was talking to a friend yesterday. We're having lunch, and we talked about, quote unquote, the Muslim Ummah. We talked about the Muslim community, and I was honest. I was like, this whole space that we're in, Gaza, Israel, it's really shining a light on the fact that the Muslim community is very weak at this point in time. That we have all of these resources, but because we haven't worked on these resources, we haven't built them out, they've atrophied. Like if you're an athlete and you don't work out, like you don't work your legs out, your leg muscles will atrophy. They will shrink up on you. You have to constantly be in the process of trying to build. So whatever your superpower is, because I could break some of it down. Like the first part, it was art. It was really art and appreciation, which has a lot to do with how do you interpret things. They said, do you like music? Do you like painting? Art is about one, interpretation, two, but art is totally subjective. What looks good to me may not look good to you. Now you say, what is that in terms of a superpower? That's a superpower of discernment. And that superpower, of course, is applicable to all the other ones. When they got to the end, psychic intuition, like, what is that? We talking about Miss Chloe from back in the day. We're not talking about Miss Chloe. What we're talking about is people who develop, I want to say, develop data, meaningful data. They develop meaningful information whereby they can slide into these things. And what I liked about this is it didn't get too wishy-washy with how you develop data. We all develop data. Some of us, it just comes to it. Some of us really, really have developed the skill and the science of being able to collect data. I have a degree in broadcast journalism. One thing they taught us to do is know how to collect information, know how to investigate it. That's the one thing I took out of Marquette University. When they had the internet and you can go in all these different libraries, you can accrue information. I mean, like your head blew off. Like we could really do this because, of course, I was out of the genre of people that went to the library, do a decimal system, the whole type of thing, pulling out the big cards and all that type of stuff. And I honestly don't miss that. I like that because it was part of my hunt. It was like doing investigative reporting. But I think the thing is being able to take information and appropriately apply it. When we talk about superpowers, there's such a thing as a subpower. Listen to me go carefully. There's a superpower, but there's a subpower that accompanies all of it. If you're able to get out and run 10 miles, your subpower may be that you're able to select or pick the correct diet that allows you to do it. There's always a connection. If you are a great singer, your subpower may be one, that you take care of your voice, but two, you select music that won't damage your voice. You select music that's in your range. If you are a business person and you're able to make good selections in terms of products that you put on a shelf, that's your superpower. But the subpower is understanding the pricing. Why you put something in, how you keep it on the shelf, and when you take it off. We talk about superpowers, but the flip side of that is what is your subpower? Just the same as when I gave the example at the opening of Brother Reggie telling me, your strength is writing. That was my subpower. I just been writing, because that's what you did. But when somebody breaks it down to you, this is the thing that makes you competitive, makes you viable. These are the things you really need to look at. So I really want to expand on that just a little bit, because we have an opportunity here on the ShOUT show to expand what we're doing in terms of our superpower. We've gone through iterations of things I was excited about. There was NFTs. I'm still excited with NFTs, the whole idea of Ethereum and things like that. And even though the market was pretty much wiped out, the superpower was not just I could do it. It was the superpower. The subpower was the fact that you could design and create things and take it to a marketplace and frame your own value. That was the subpower. The subpower of ShOUT show is there are a lot of subpowers of the ShOUT show. Not just we get to have this connection once a week. That's not it. The connection is people find value in the connection. That we have a network of people who have been on the show, who've been guests on the show, who've been in the comments section, who walk away with a particular type of experience. And after a number of years, what's interesting now is when I go overseas, like the UK, or I go overseas to Australia, you'll find people who have seen the ShOUT show. So internationally, people know about Brother Altov. Internationally, people in Japan know about Sister Satana. Internationally, people know about Sister Ree in Australia. I think this is the thing that's really, really encouraging because Sister Donna and I, well, she can tell you, before we did the shout out show, we had meetings about it, but we didn't have the technology. We didn't have the technology. And one of the things that stopped me from doing it was I thought in my mind that the superpower I needed to possess was to be able to go out and get investors to give me a pocket of money to shoot this thing. And I was 100% wrong. Because the sub power was the fact that we had everything in house. We had to be very, very patient, and you had to do your research, because when COVID came, it was in a total new market that opened up because we couldn't go out for a year and a half. We couldn't connect for a year and a half. And so a whole market was created with this whole podcast thing. I can think of a lot of podcasts that started, ended. That's not what I'm talking about. There's a whole new generation of podcasting that's come out because you have people like, there is a market and there's viability and there's value. People are paying money for these things. And I'd be totally disingenuous to tell anyone here that I was not able to make any kind of money as a result of having this podcast. That would be disingenuous. The skills, the acquired skills that I learned to put a studio together, to put a script together, to write out concepts. And I owe a lot to the Shout Out family because you guys show up. But I think the thing is, and let's say that the sub power of the Shout Out show is the Shout Out show soldiers. Think about that. So here's something else I want us to contemplate, and we're going to take a quick break. I said, find the thing that you want to be a superpower. Spend time figuring out why it's not a superpower. Honest assessment. I'm not asking you to score yourself. That's trivial, basically. I'm not asking you to score yourself. I'm asking you to do an honest assessment in the context of where you want to be. Years ago, you guys are going to probably laugh. Years ago, I wanted to do a master's program to get my MBA. And what happened was I got tied up, but all the things in life, family, all that, you get tied up, and it became increasingly harder to turn in the projects and things like that. And so I stopped. I'll be honest. I stopped my MBA. I discontinued that pursuit. And then it was interesting that when I was with Bayan, the Bayan process starts with pretty much the same thing that we have right here. And when I talked about, a superpower, my superpower is being able to recognize in some regards that people who have money, who have resources, sometimes they can't organize themselves to effectively use those resources. So my journey to get my master's with Bayan begins with the fact that I went on a website and I told the president of Bayan, my friend, Jihad, and said, man, your marketing is terrible. I said, you have really bad marketing. He said, I know. And what we did was I bartered marketing expertise for a master's in Islamic education. True story. And I'm going to encourage all of you, Satana, Altaf, Ree, JT, anybody else is going to see this, Mark Kennedy, real business and consulting, real business and having clients is being able to look through the muck and the wallow and find out what their sub-power is and help them develop the sub-power. Because that makes the superpower that much more viable, that much more consistent, that much more tangible. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. This is Preacher Moss talking about identifying your superpower here on the Shout Out Show. Don't you move. Yeah, so, my first, introduction to convenient urgent care, they were providing masks and supplies for people who didn't have supplies during COVID. And I went to pick them up
and was going to take him around to some of the local areas. And I ran into a brother named Ijaz Saeed. And as I began to talk to Ijaz, it was very, very clear that this brother had a vision for community service. Oftentimes, when you have urgent cares in a situation that they're not necessarily doing a prevention or education. He came up with the term "a home of the smart patient," and I understand what that means. It means that people really want to be in tune about their health, but at the same time, they also want to be in tune about the people who are providing health. This is a very organic relationship. And little did I know, a year or so later, I would actually have to call on their services when I was in dealing with some physical trauma, if you will. And I have to say, they held my hand and they took me through the process. The offerings of telehealth, the offerings of being able to walk in consistent. I was in pretty bad shape, but they treated me like I was the president of the United States, not that one, Obama. Okay, I'm joking. But what I want to say is the professionalism, the dedication, the care, compassion, and the consistency, all the things I just named, makes convenient urgent care the space you want to go to. 3 locations in the Houston area: Cypress, Pasadena, and Parker Road in Houston. But I want to say the overall conceptual understanding of convenient urgent care is that they care for their patients, even when the patients don't know how to care for themselves. Check them out.
All right, we're back. So I want to continue on this whole idea of superpower and subpower. Someone asked me which one is more important, or which one happens first. A subpower is something you recognize. A superpower, though it's there, it needs to be at some level evolved, matured. There's a process to get the expertise. Subpower is interesting because subpower fuels expertise. You can have a very, very tall building, but engineering wise, structural wise, if you don't know the dimensions of that foundation that has to support the edifice above it, it's not going to be a safe building. Subpowers do that. And I believe, in my own honest opinion, I believe the subpowers allow us to delineate. It allows us to say that these are the mistakes we don't want to make at a very, very low level. There's a quote that used to say, fail fast, fail quick, or, if you're going to fail, do it quickly. And I do subscribe to that myself. There's a great book, anybody is interested, it's a great book called The Lean Startup by, I think, Eric Ries. And the Lean Startup introduces this whole idea. We have the term MVP, most valuable player. In business, is the most valuable proposition. But in business, in terms of the lean startup, it's the most viable product. The most valuable product with the most viable product means that viability is, I'm going to step back and I'm not going to put 100% to this thing because we don't know what we have. I'll put 50% in and find out what the reaction is, and that will encourage me and also inform me about how much money, how much effort we're going to do moving forward. That superpower model, while great on paper, it does have some strings that are loose. The superpower model does have some strings that are loose. Because if you were doing the test, like I was doing the test, and I added my score up, I'm looking at all other things. I'm like, I thought I was that. And what I'm saying is, you can't really get it from a test because experiences are going to vary. They're going to change. They're going to be high, low, quick, fast. And the thing about a superpower as opposed to a subpower grows with your level of learning. A superpower, not necessarily. Superpower is, I have it and I believe in some regards that it's applicable to the situation. Subpower is interesting because it's going to move along the way it's supposed to move along. A superpower emphasizes the possibility and sometimes risk. So I want to talk about the show here just a little bit. We're going to keep the format of the show. We can still keep it at on Wednesdays, but we're probably going to be going about 45 minutes. Preach, what are you doing? You cutting the show? I'm not cutting out 15 minutes of show. My job now with the shout out show and the opportunities that are presented is that I have to get it into what's called work form. You know, in the beginning, we used to do 30, actually, we used to do 22 minutes and then we moved to 30 minutes. What's happened with the shout out show? And I want to thank all of y'all for this. Everybody, my family, shout out show family, everybody that's ever been on the show, Sister Satana, every button you push, me, Allah bless you, all of that. What's happened is the market has turned. And what I mean by the market has turned is what's old is now new again. What's old is now new again. And the shout out show finds itself in a position where it has alignment with new technology and new opportunities. Thus, I have to discipline myself in the show to be able to do not necessarily an hour. We can do an hour. We can do an hour anytime. You know that. But we have to get to the point where we discipline ourselves that we are, for lack of a better word, and I want all of y'all to be partners with me on the shout out show as we move forward. What's important is that now all this work that we've done, it now has a chance to run. It has a chance to have some legs on it. And what I mean by that is, you know, there are times I've done the shout out show. It's been a few people. What I've noticed now is, you know, Facebook has picked up people watching the show. I call it the aftermarket watchers. They picked up. But we have an incredible catalog. We have an incredible catalog of content. And I'll shout out Sister Satana because way back when we did the shout out show, it was Preacher Moss Ramadan 30 for 30. And we got closer to 30 days. We were like, what we going to do? What we going to do? And we kept going. And we kind of kept going pretty much about 800 episodes. We are content beasts. And now there is a market for content beast. So I'm going to tell you guys next year, January the 16th. Yeah, January the 16th to the 17th, I will not be available. There will be no shout out show on that day. I will be in Miami at something called NAPKey. And what NAPKey is, and I'm telling all of you guys this because I want you to think outside of the box for the things that you want to do as well. So I'm sharing. NAPKey is a marketplace for content creators, distributors, all these licensing people, because I said the game is changing. Many of you have Netflix. Well, before you had Netflix, you had network TV. Netflix basically broke the model for network TV, and then, you know, we had COVID. They were the only ones that made money. ABC, all the studios lost money, and then many of them started producing their own streaming services. Paramount had Paramount Plus, Amazon Prime. You had all of these things. NBC had Peacock. And now the turn has come again. It's something called fast streaming, which is free ad sponsored TV. So free ad sponsored TV is growing exponentially. And in the marketplace, they're looking for content. The shout out show is that content. That you can have content and you can have people who will place ads in your content, and that's how you develop revenue. Why am I telling you guys all this? One, I want you to be informed, and two, to be Islamically correct. I want to make sure that if this thing takes off the way I hope it does, that, you know, in some regards we're partners. Not that you guys are just viewers, but you've been there, and I feel that duly should be rewarded in some regards, and I'm going to do that. So clearly, we have some things that are taking us different spaces, and I think even Satana will probably even correct me. We don't even need to be doing 45 minutes. We need to be doing 44, because that's what our TV is. When you watch television, a sitcom, it's only 22 minutes of material. I write scripts. It's only 22, 25 to 30 pages of script, because Everything else is advertising. So when we do the shout out show, we don't need to do an hour. We need to do 44 minutes with 22 minutes. No, 44 minutes with 18 minutes of advertising. That's the business. So I want everybody, because I'm in my space about not so much what my superpower is, but what my subpower is. One of my subpowers, and I want to thank all of you, one of my subpowers is developing patience on top of patience. You know, things will change on the shout out show, and I hope to take everybody with me. But I want everybody to be successful in whatever it is you do. And if you ever have any questions or anything, go to info@permissibleafter@gmail and drop a line. I want to make sure that this family, this shout out show family, is successful and prosperous. All right, so look, I'm gonna get out of here. I got a meeting with Sister Satana, and you guys have been. Hey, Sister Kathina, how you doing? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's your daughter doing? She's still in the service or out of the service? Or we haven't seen you in a long time. But look, thank you so much for poking your head in. Obviously, I remember you. And wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, little brother. JT talking about superpower and subpower. So that's a big conversation I'm sure we'll have on our regular Sunday call. So listen, we're going to tune out early today. There's no need to keep people past the time. I don't believe in that, and I think sometimes you have to be respectful of people's time. Next week we'll be back on, and we might be on a little bit longer, but we're gonna shorten the show down, 45 minutes max. We're gonna keep it like W.D. Muhammad, Cook Buzz. You're supposed to be done in 30 minutes, 35 minutes. That includes the Juma prayer. So listen, I'm Preacher Moss. You guys have been great. And go back if you can. I think I thought I had a link for this. So do I have a link for? Oh, I think I messed it up. No problem. I actually had copied the link for the video. So don't worry about that. But start thinking away from that test. Start thinking about what your superpowers are, number one. And start thinking about your subpower, the thing that fuels your superpower, the thing that gives it validity, it gives it girth, gives it structure before it gets to the superpower space. What are you doing in terms of delivery practice or whatever it is to hone those skills? Think about that. All right. So listen, we're getting ready to bounce out of here. You guys have been terrific. Thanks so much for your time. I'm Preacher Moss on the Shout Out Show. We'll see you guys, inshallah, next Wednesday. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Take care.